is the value proposition, and then what the outcome looks like. So then it'll give you a complete picture of how it progresses and what exactly is the end deliverable. Does that sound good?
Perfect. That sounds good to me. I'll put my microphone on mute. Now I'm all ears and eyes.
All right, sounds good. Give me 1 second as I share my screen. All right. So this is just a quick snapshot of our platform, and it all kind of goes from the full kind of end-to-end SDP, which is our supplier data platform, into what Teal IQ is and what Teal IQ does and what it delivers. So just to kind of recap, I think you may have heard or at some point in time we might have kind of had that conversation, but we're a data platform within procurement. The main thing we solve for is helping procurement improve their data coverage quality across their entire supplier data ecosystem, and then it's done in a more autonomous way, and the delivery mode depends on where the destination needs to be. So it could be S2P side of things, it could be ERP, it could be manual via flat file, it could be on the spend side, it'd be like something like a Savo. So the destination and consumption is dynamic. It really boils down to who and where it needs to go. The main focus is what our data is and what the coverage looks like. So the key thing that we currently focus on in terms of our end solutions, we're from a data perspective, is we're enabling companies with supplier discovery, so enabling them to find new suppliers. We're helping them improve their diversity programs by giving them access to a supplier base with various different diversity certifications and attributes tied to that, so that gives them a better view of what their diverse spend looks like. And then the last piece, which is the core component of Teal IQ, which is enrichment. So when we're looking at a supplier profile within a prospect's, I'll call it their vendor master data, we're able to match it to an entity within our platform, and we're able to kind of identify what the gaps are. So it could have inaccurate addresses, it could have inaccurate diversity information. So we're able to kind of highlight that, and then the next step is the enrichment piece. So does that sound good so far with me?
Yeah, it does. I mean, let's look at the four blocks on the side, the structured public information, the unstructured public information. I take it you use AI and data scraping for that?
Yes, it's a combination of AI and ML technologies that we use that basically look at all the publicly accessible data, and then it vets that data to make sure against other instances of the same entity to make sure the accuracy is there. And when it comes to, and then when we validate that, then it enters into our core, the database of supplier profiles that we have. So each supplier profile has various different attributes. Each attribute, as we're looking at that information publicly, we're looking at, the accuracy for it. And if we're able to validate that multiple times, we assign a trust score. So a trust score basically helps the procurement side of the house look at an attribute and determine that if it's a high trust score, that means that we have been able to validate that, and we're 100% confident on the accuracy. If it's a medium to low, that means that we've seen discrepancies of the attribute being different in certain areas, and it's up to based on customer requirements, then they can decide whether they want medium low trust score attributes, and they want to self-validate that, or they just want to disregard it. So that's how we kind of both look at the realm in terms of where we're getting that data and structuring that data into supplier profiles for consumption.
Got it. So in essence, what you do is you're basically a first wave of the information gathering and consolidation. You bring it into your data trust score where there's discovery, diversity, and data enrichment, so that by the time that they're able to get the information, it has been vetted as far as you can do, and then they can decide what they want to do with that information.
Correct. The only thing I would change is, so we're getting the data from, just just the general landscape, and we are structuring that data where we're both at that structuring, we're assigning scores based on the validation. So the data goes into our core platform, the supplier data platform. Each supplier profile has various attributes that get a trust score assigned to them based on our ability to validate that information. And then when on those set of profiles, then you have use cases of, you can use that data to find new suppliers. You can use that data to identify gaps in your supplier diversity program. You can use that data to enrich both diversity attributes and other attributes, or use that as a de facto data foundation for all procurement operations. So that's basically the core of the data platform, that based on the use case and requirements, it's built to be very flexible, and it boils down to what the use case and requirements are, and it could be configured that way.
Okay, now is it designed when you have the data going out, and they'll decide whether or not they want to engage or dig further, or whatever they want to do? Is there an echo effect back where you're able to bring in real life experience from your client's side, the buyer side, to say, okay, this is what we had in the way of why we decided to deal with them. This is what their actual performance was. Is there a way to keep that cross check back and forth?
So yes.
Or is it just a single flow of data that goes out? You're continually updating it, but there's no re-communication back from the buying company to say, here's our experience with them.
So when you say experience, can you unpack that for me?
Give me an idea. I'll oversimplify it for you. Like, let's say they deal with somebody and it passes all the things, but then product quality, something's wrong with that, or delivery is not good, or the alignment with legislation as to the sourcing or ethical sourcing, anything that can come back after they've done the transaction. How does that get fed back into you directly from your clients?
So it has to be something that is part of the profile, like from an attribute perspective, right? So it can't, if it's an operational element, let's say, the experience is not good with a particular supplier, that in the realm of supplier data is very qualitative. So that doesn't mean that it's a universal across every single scenario of that supplier. So that could be that within whatever that interaction is or sourcing event is, that the customer did not have a good experience. So that qualitative information is not part of our data set. What we're building is more of a central profile, a source of truth for suppliers that would have all the core attributes, your number of employees, your diversity certificates, your revenue, hierarchy, all the like that basically has a complete picture of a supplier. And then based on procurement's requirement, if they're looking for, let's say, paper cup suppliers, and we're able to surface X amount of paper cup suppliers, what they do with them and how that experience plays out, whether that, does it meet the requirements and so on and so forth, unless it's part of, let's say, they're able to validate 4 new diversity certifications that we weren't able to, that data can potentially go into SDP, and most likely ends up in SDP based on that flow. But if it's like, they messed up the delivery, that's something that is not an element of SDP, because there's no real value of that data, given the qualitative nature of that. Does that give you a sense?
Yeah, no, I understand that different, just in terms of the weighted importance when you talk about the attributes and the algorithms. So basically, if I look at this is what you call the ultimate filtering system. It creates a reasonable insight into the suppliers and gives intelligence into those suppliers in those areas that you're talking about, the attributes that you're talking about. And it empowers then the buying company to use that information based on their experience, on their expertise, to be able to engage with confidence.
Correct. The one word I would change is, it's not a filter, it's more of a foundation. So
Okay.
think of it as, Zoom info in the context of go-to-market, right? As go-to-market teams are kind of identifying their prospects and they're looking at various different companies and they're slicing and dicing that data based on the requirements of their ICP, our data is kind of designed to do that. That for bigger procurement teams, that if they're both what they already have, they want to improve and vet that make sure that that data is up to date. That's the data enrichment use case. So we take their vendor master, and I'll go and transition into the Teal IQ in a bit. We take their vendor master, we run it through our system, and we're able to surface insights, be like, this is what your data looks like. And then it basically gives them a snapshot of their data ecosystem and then gives them tangible next steps to how to improve that data. Then you
Right.
have people that are like, I need a realm of suppliers to find new suppliers, i.e. discovery. So that's where our data can come in. We have 13 million plus profiles that they can search Tealbook data to find particular suppliers. Could be paper companies, could be medical devices, whatever that discovery or supplier discovery query is. And then diversity is a set of attributes that happens to be a very prominent use case within procurement. So that diversity data is also part of our overall data set. So it's a more of a data foundation that plugs into procurement, and it could be leveraged to improve existing data quality of a procurement team, give them access to a net new set of data, supplier data that they can use to find new suppliers. It can, and it's because it's ongoing. It's not a static database. It's not that just basically is a snapshot of data and point in time. We're continuously updating and tweaking. So it at the end of the day, this is one way to make sure your procurement data is accurate, is trusted, and it's complete. And then when you have that on the procurement side, on the business side, you can kind of do a check mark on your data side, and that opens up more pathways of like, what else do you want to use your procurement data for? You can use it for automation. You can look into potential applications of AI, because now you have a data foundation to work off of versus your vendor master that's a collection of various, over time added entries. There's no way to validate that. It's a static internal data set. That's the key kind of value proposition of Tealbook.
Got it. Now, from the supplier side, their advantage is that by going through this process, they are obviously then approved or how do I say, vetted, so that they can be trustfully engaged. So the benefit for the supplier is that you enable them to be able to meet requirements on the buyer side, which in theory gives them opportunity for more potential business.
Correct. But one distinction we have I want to make is we're autonomous. So we're not an onboarding platform, or we
No.
don't have any onboarding capability. So it's not like a supplier can come to Tealbook and be like, can you make sure my profile exists? We do that at a customer level based on their supplier base, so that we're making sure that their suppliers, that the supplier profiles are complete. But what the core of the platform is looking at information that already exists, also working with some of the strategic partners. So we're not interacting with one like a direct one-to-one, one to few suppliers and getting that information, because that would be a very tedious way of doing it. And the realm of suppliers is so massive
Right.
that it changes. If you are a customer in pharma, your supplier base is going to be very different than someone in banking. You have your core suppliers that are more universal, and they are across the board, agnostic. Those we always have. We kind of like in the data set. I mean, our completeness is significantly higher, and then our data coverage is significantly higher. But we're not interacting with individual suppliers.
Got it. Got it. All right. Um, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I think it's fairly straightforward.
So let me now show you what Teal IQ does. So now that
Okay.
I walk you through what our core platform is, so what we did with Teal IQ was we established a starting point for organizations. So companies that are looking to understand their data landscape. How do we do that? What is the current kind of quality of my supplier data? What's the completeness of that? that's one of the core aspects of Teal IQ. So we take a customer's vendor master, where part of our platform, in terms of the architecture, we're able to take a data set in the context of a vendor master data and run it through our data foundation in a matter of days. So we're able to, no matter what the size of the vendor master file is, we're able to ingest that and then basically spit out insights around what that vendor master is missing and what the coverage looks like. So we can identify duplicates, we can identify non-supplier entities, we can identify expired certificates, we can identify what your NAICS coverage looks like. So we're able to basically give you a very in-depth breakdown of your vendor master data, i.e. supplier data. That's what Teal IQ is. So it's taking the data enrichment component and basically isolating it. Be like, before you do the enrichment, you want to know where you stand. And then you have a pretty cool understanding of like what your gaps are. And then you're able to enrich your data and do that consistently. So here's an example of an IQ report. Let me just change my Zoom setting. Give me 1 second here. There we go. So in this is what a typical Teal IQ report looks like. When we ingest the data, in this case, the total data set was around 17,000 suppliers. They submit it. We're able to identify what level of duplication exists. So in this case, like close to anywhere between 30 to 37% duplication. We're able to match the companies in some cases. So we're highlighting, what your company match rate looks like, companies with domains, so on and so forth. We're able to highlight breakdown, how many suppliers do you have with employee counts? How many suppliers profiles do you have with NAICS codes, so on and so forth. So we're able to now we're painting a picture of their current data landscape. We're able to show their supplier breakdown by geo, so you can see what your coverage looks like. And then we can break down their supplier diversity coverage. So we can show, suppliers with, one certification in the context of small business supply and enterprise, total number of certifications. We're able to show expired certificates, so you can then, as a procurement person, know that, what are some of those suppliers that you need to contact or engage with to improve your diversity coverage. And then the last thing is we were able to present some next steps, so tangible next steps in terms of what you can do to improve your data quality. So all of this is done in a matter of days. When we get a vendor master file, we run it through, and this report is created. So this is a starting point of Teal IQ. What happens from this point on is a customer is like, okay, I want to improve my NAICS coverage because it's 54 is really low. I want to improve it. And that's where the next piece is enriching it. So we're able to enrich that data. We're able to fill the gaps within their supplier data. And then we're able to kind of then that new improved data set goes back into the customer's instance. And now we've kind of improved the overall data quality from baseline to the net new level.
One quick question I have is this. How often do they want to run this? Like, it's not an annual thing. Do they run it monthly? Do they run it quarterly? Like, what do you recommend the client to do?
So we just launched the product, so we haven't had a scenario of frequency kick in yet. But the whole journey starts with this. So I think over the next few months, we will see how often do we run IQ reports, but I doubt like it will be every other month, because part of this is that when we're enriching it, we are then filling those gaps. So the new gaps that may come up, depending upon the company and the level of supplier changes that they may have, may not be that often, could be once a year type best practice they do, or could be quarterly. So we haven't seen that frequency kick in yet, because the product's just been out like a month, less than a month in the market. And so far, the initial interactions are the first timers, like we're just running these and presenting these insights back to customers. But we'll see. We'll see if we'll have a better sense of the frequency in the coming months.
What now in this initial period of running, what has been the initial feedback from
Um,
clients?
it's been really positive. across the board, because a lot of folks are surprised when they see the breakdown of their data. They're surprised to see like, wow, we didn't know we had that many duplicates. We didn't know we had expired certificates. And it basically, is more of a prescription for them of not prescription in the sense like, but more of a diagnosis for them of where do they need to start? Because part of the challenge for procurement is they know that they have data gaps, but they don't know where to start. It's just, it's like a needle in a haystack scenario. Do you start by looking at diversity? Do you start by looking at company names? Like, where exactly do you start? Because supplier data profiles are pretty robust. This is where that kind of that solves that problem. And the more important piece is that it does that really quickly. So it's not like a monthly exercise. This is like that takes that long. It takes a matter of days. So they're able to see what their output looks like. And then from there, it's like, okay, now how do we fix those gaps? How do we get rid of those duplicates? How do we update our diversity certificates? How do we improve our match rate coverage? All that stuff then gets on the table, and then it's a matter of priority, like what's prioritized first, and so on and so forth.
In other words, the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. You help to break down the elephant into small pieces so they can focus on or prioritizing, if you will, which ones they have to deal with first, which are the most urgent.
Exactly. It's like an X-ray, right? Like
Right.
you have pain points, and it's kind of all over the body, but you don't know where to start. And you go through this process and you have an exact understanding of, okay, then it's a matter of priority from a business perspective. Duplicates is always a concern, but if the nature of the duplicates is because we can provide that breakdown of like what are those duplicates. If the customer priority is like, no, I'm not worried about duplicates. I need diversity. I need to, because my diversity spend needs to be 100% accurate or a certain level of accuracy, then the focus will be on diversity first. So that's a dynamic element that changes based on customers, size of companies, size of their vendor master, core priorities. So we rarely see like a same thing over and over. Like, in fact, we haven't, because everybody's different. Some folks want to double down on duplication and elimination. Some folks are able to see their geo breakdown, which they kind of know holistically, but then they also spark like, hey, we might need to move some suppliers. So the diagnosis is dynamic based on the company, and then what follows is also dynamic based on priority.
Oh, I was just thinking on another thing, the parent-child SKU nightmare. It's too bad you don't do this for parts, but that's a different story altogether. Listen, I think this is an interesting and it's fairly straightforward. And I can see again why you can't demonstrate a system but this is the flow. So,
Yeah, the demonstrating piece, I'll just jump in because for us, like there's nothing to demonstrate because we're taking a data set and we're running it through the platform, and then that running is just like a backend kind of component. So that's where there's no real like actual demonstration. But this is the output, which is a really tangible piece to kind of showcase what a potential customer could expect.
Well, I'll tell you, it's fairly straightforward, and that's probably another part of the appeal of it. It's not a difficult concept to grasp, which is important. All right, well, listen, is there anything else you have to show me, or is this pretty much it?
No, this is pretty much it.
Okay.
We have some other elements that we're working through. We're currently heads down on scoping a Gen AI solution. So as soon as those details are kind of ready, and market ready, I can share some of those with you as well. So, but for now, the main focus has been just the go-to-market focus on Teal IQ, getting that ready, pushing it out in the market, and then getting that initial feedback loop from prospects and companies that are looking into and using Teal IQ today.
All right. Well, listen, thank you. I recorded this entire session, so I'm going to watch it again, just see if I missed any notes. And I imagine I can give you questions or share questions with you if I have any that arise.
Yeah, please do. If there's something that you want to publicly share and you're interested in, let me know. I can provide you with certain aspects. And same thing, like if you want to just validate something before you push it out,
Yeah.
yeah, just let me know. I can answer those questions for you and provide you with feedback.
That's perfect. Farhad, thank you so much for your time today. I hope you have a great weekend.
Likewise. Thanks, John. Take care. Cheers.